So, welcome to the podcast, Camille Layt. Camille, how are you?
G'day, Rab. I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Oh, the very best. So, yes, we're connecting to you all the way there in sunny Australia at the minute. Whereabouts
Yeah,
are
not
you?
not so not so sunny at the moment. It's just gone dusk.
Oh,
I'm in Brisbane, so I'm in Queensland in the northeast. So
I
yeah,
see. That
northeast
makes
coast.
sense. Yes, because
Yeah,
you're a member of a little known band as the City of Brisbane Pipe Band. Is that right?
that's it. Brisbane Pipe Band. Yep. So we've been around for about 70 years. Not myself, obviously, but been a member for about the last 5. But yeah, we celebrated our 70th anniversary a couple of years ago. So yeah,
Wow. That's a long time for a band to be on the road then. Yeah. So, there must be quite
yeah,
a
it
good
is.
piping scene there in Brisbane, is there?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Quite the same sort of bands that show up, same as every region, I suppose. But yeah, we've got about say between 12 and 20 sort of competing bands in a full season. We usually have about 6 or 7 events, which is nowhere near what you
Oh,
guys have over
nice.
there, I know. But yeah,
There you
between
go.
sort of February, which is the middle of our summer, so
Mm.
scorching hot Aussie summer in the deep north, all the way through to about May. So yeah, first half of the year for us, and then a lot of our better players go over to Scotland to compete in sort of August. So
I
yeah,
see. Yeah, so you do have the kind of guys that fly out then and compete elsewhere. Yeah, there you
yeah, I
go.
believe so. Yeah, yeah.
So can I ask then, with being a piper in Australia, what are the biggest challenges with the conditions? I've heard so many stories about piping down under and that it's next to impossible sometimes.
It's funny you say that because I think you only know what you know. So I didn't kind of know how difficult it was until I went to other places to pipe. So I've been to the UK, I've been to Europe, and I've been to North America now. And in all of those places, they had their own challenges, and I sort of compare
Yeah.
them to Australia as kind of being the normal for me. So I think where I am, I'm actually in a pretty lucky position because what do they say? There's a thing I heard once that said that around about 37 degrees Celsius and pretty humid is sort of the best
Yeah.
temperature to be piping because you don't get as much condensation in the bag, and that's roughly the temperature when we start our competition season. So
Nice.
theoretically, it's excellent conditions for piping, but not so much for the pipers, I think. So
No.
a little bit
Yeah.
warm, but yeah, no. So we've got really high humidity where I am, so that doesn't sort of take too much of an effect on the pipes. I know that in parts of Australia it's obviously very dry, but something a lot of people don't realise is that Australia is enormous and has a lot of
Hmm.
different climates and things like that. So we're actually about the same size as North America. Sorry, as the USA. So
There you go.
Australia as a country, yeah. So while our desert's bigger, like I live in the subtropics, so we're probably the equivalent of Florida or somewhere in Spain, probably in Europe in terms of our
Wow.
climate. So yeah.
See, and as we're recording this, it's absolutely lashing it down with rain outside. I don't know if you can even hear it. It's bouncing off the window. It's crazy. So yeah,
No, not too bad.
Northern Ireland is a tiny wee country. It could take you about an hour and a half, 2 hours to drive to, coast to coast, that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
that's one of the things I've kind of taken from piping internationally is the sheer logistics of it all. Moving your
Yeah,
band from place to
absolutely.
place is a massive deal. I'm sure you guys
Totally
have
is.
to
Yeah.
tackle that as one of your biggest problems.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, most of our competitions are obviously quite local to where we are, but if we ever want to travel internationally, I've done it a fair bit as a soloist, but
Yeah.
I've travelled once internationally with a band, and it was an enormous, and that was for a festival, not even for a competition, where you're kind of trying to raise sort of $80,000 to $100,000 to get 30 odd people and their
Oh,
partners and everyone over, and having all of the all of the fights that happen over
wow.
funding and who gets what subsidies and all that sort of thing. And then by the time you get there for a competition, there's a chance you might be cut at the line, right? So
Oh,
you've gone through all that
imagine
effort to
that.
prepare and pay all that money, and then yeah, so it's we're definitely very isolated from other parts of the piping world for sure.
Yeah.
But locally, it's actually not too bad. I think the furthest we really have to travel for a competition is about 3 hours, and for a festival is about 6. Unless you're traveling for sort of a one-off event. So yeah,
That's nuts. There you go. I'm completely throwing
that
myself under
doesn't
the bus
seem that
here.
far to us, I suppose.
No, see, I know us on the Rab Show team, we would complain if we have like a 2 hour drive to get somewhere, like, oh man, spent forever in the car, couldn't wait to get out. But you guys are well used to that kind of distances. There you go.
Yeah, well, I suppose
Fantastic.
some people in the greater sort of Queensland area travel that far just for practice, I suppose. So
Ah,
yeah,
there you go. That's dedication for you, Camille. That's dedication.
yeah.
So let's have a look at the band website. There it is. There you are. Oh, look at you all. There you go. Now, so this is the band's website. So it's brisbanepipeband.com. And I've been looking at this. And honestly, you seemed really dedicated into actually teaching new people, if you know what I mean. There's a whole ethos about joining the band and teaching new beginners. Is that something that you're involved in as well? Kind of teaching new folks?
Yeah, it's I am. Yeah, definitely. So Pipe Major on leads the tutor program, but I'm one of the head tutors as well. So, and it's something that we are quite passionate about. So in my area, most of the new pipers that we get in are either kids that come through schools. So there's a really great couple of local school programs through Brisbane Boys College and Scott's PGC in Warwick. But aside from them, it's kind of, we get a lot of inquiries from people who are sort of say, piping's my heritage, or, I'm really interested in the sound, or, it just seems like a fun, quirky instrument to learn, which is how I kind of got into it as an adult. But there's not really many avenues to sort of do that unless, I'm sure we're going to talk about it later, but there's a few online options obviously for doing that now. But
a few?
I know certainly, but I know certainly when I got started, it was very difficult to sort of, find bands that could teach, because obviously a lot of bands, struggle to get members who can, learn their own sets, let alone play, and then to train a tutor is another step entirely. So, so no, we definitely tutor. So COVID was a great, sounds like, a bit not kosher to sort of talk about COVID as being a positive, but out of the lockdowns and everything last year, we actually, our learner program thrived. I think a lot of people, when they were stuck in lockdown, kind of for the first time sort of realized, oh my God, I need a hobby. So we went from having about 2 or 3 learners in the program to about 10 within sort of 3 months, which was a huge uplift for us, and has led to sort of a swell in our band ranks over the last couple of years, which has been fantastic.
That's fantastic. Well, if anything, that kind of preempts my next question. I was going to ask how the pandemic had affected you guys, but clearly it's had a bit of a bonus then for you, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of an odd shift for us, because prior to the pandemic, we'd sort of, been going through the usual motions. A lot of us, so we're a grade 4 band, and a lot of, grade 4 bands, obviously you do the sort of competition and gig cycle and try to bring in money while you're also trying to learn new comp sets and that sort of thing. But obviously COVID kind of shut all of that down. We switched to Zoom practices like most people did, and just trying to keep everyone motivated was pretty tricky. So that was a hard couple of months. We didn't cop it anywhere near as badly as the rest of the world, I think, but we were only locked down for about 4 months initially, I think. But obviously then there was the seesaw of kind of, can we play? No, wait, we're locked down again. No, wait, there's restrictions. So a lot of cancelled events. I think that's been a universal experience worldwide, unfortunately. But it was an unexpected bonus that we had a great chance sort of in switching off all of the competitions and performances to really focus on teaching. So it was a great great bonus for our learners, I suppose, that they got to have so much dedicated attention for that time. And it's led to, we've got about 6 learners that have started in the band in the last 6 months, I think, even, so, which has been fantastic. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So it's good to know that something positive came from all of that nonsense. There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can I ask about yourself personally then? There could be people listening to the show right now who are not aware of who you are, but you're an author of a publication that is a Big Rab Show Award winner. Yeah. Fine and Bagpipe Freedom. Yeah. So that's right. Can I ask about your own background in piping? You said about how you picked up the instrument to begin with. Was it just because it sounded strange and you wanted to give it a go?
Absolutely. Well, actually, there was another draw card, which was that there was free beer involved. So that was another reason that I got pulled in. No, I was actually in a pub in the city, in Brisbane City, with a couple of mates, and a pipe band walked in, and I'd actually wanted to learn in high school. We had a teacher who was a piper who always threatened he was going to teach us how to learn and never did. But then, we were at a pub one night, and Queensland Irish pipe band walked in. I sort of had a bit of Dutch courage, wandered up to someone and said, do you guys teach? And they said, yeah, and we give free beer if you show up every week. I was like, sorted.
There you go.
I'll be there. So that's how I got into piping. I have no Scottish heritage at all. I've got sort of Irish English background, but many generations ago. So so Aussie through and through, but just love the sound and love the music. So
And then the rest is history. Joined Brisbane band and then just been piping ever since. But then can you tell us then, how did the partnership between yourself and Andrew Douglas come about and the production of this book?
Yeah, it was it's one of those weird things where, looking back, you can kind of see how all the dots connected, but it seemed very sort of like I was in a pinball machine at the time. But it's only a few years ago, actually. The way it actually first started was I became quite good mates with Josh and Andy from the Chantarant podcast.
Shout out to them.
Love those boys. And so through getting to know Andy actually became my solo tutor, so over Skype. And then he kind of encouraged me to get stuck into the dojo because it was going to save him a lot of time in terms of tutoring me, that I'd, pick up a lot of the fundamentals that I could just study by myself, and he could actually work on some stuff that was well worth his time. So so I got stuck into the dojo, and through that sort of met Andrew, and he realized that I had this whole other skill set that, we could probably leverage together, and it hit great timing with the pandemic again. We're kind of just getting stuck inside. It actually, myself personally, kind of having all that free time, I kind of used it to basically work my way through the entire Piper's Dojo back catalogue. So I was kind of very, very familiar with all of his material. And so he struck up the conversation about, hey, is this something maybe you'd want to work on me with? So wow. And so it led to the publication of the book, which was fantastic.
So of course, your outside skills that you talk about, you actually work for the University of Queensland, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm a publications manager there. I've got a background in writing and editing, so I'm an editor by trade. So
it was a match made in heaven then, really.
That's it.
So for folks out there who haven't got a copy of this book yet, and I don't know really who hasn't got a copy of it yet, can you give us a little bit of a brief overview of what people can expect between the covers?
Absolutely, yeah. So the book itself, we wanted it very much to be something that you'd want to sit down and read at the end of the day. One of the writers that I really like to read is Bill Bryson, and I wanted to try and emulate his style a bit in terms of storytelling, to get a message across and to try and educate through telling stories, which of course is the most engaging way that you can possibly teach. So, and Andrew has this amazing curriculum that works. I know it works personally because I've been through it myself, but we thought that this might be a great way to reach a new audience. So obviously his school is completely online. There's a lot of people who prefer to, read content in print. And so this was a great way to kind of do a bit of a summary of his whole approach to teaching, I suppose, and looking at the best approach to mindset when it comes to being a musician, but also how you can, I'm not sure how impolite I can be on your podcast, Rabbit. We had a working title as we were working through that was basically to, unexpletive remove yourself. If you've been a piper, which is exactly the situation I was in, if you've been sort of rushing through and taking shortcuts and ingraining bad habits, this is a way that you can sort of reset, I suppose, your mindset, your approach to musicianship, and how you become a better bagpiper, basically. So it's sort of how to reroute yourself onto the right path to really improving and not getting frustrated and stuck in a rut. So the whole idea of finding bagpipe freedom was sort of freeing yourself from the cage of all of these bad habits and figuring out the right way forward. So, but told through some, fun anecdotes and interesting stories and things like that. So,
it's been a book, honestly, and I know this might sound like a bit of a sales pitch, but I've always kind of revisited the book as like a point of reference. It's not something that you read chapter 1 to the very end. This is something that I kind of dip in, right? I'm having problems with something, right? And then I find the chapter. It's been a bit of a reference book.
Yeah.
Was it designed that way?
Yeah, a little bit. It's the middle chapters, definitely. So they're sort of the crux of the meat of, I suppose, like the reference materials, as you said. And it's very humbling when I hear people say that they kind of refer back to it, because that's,
constantly
the thing you want to hear as an author is that people want to go back and kind of read things that you've written. And I was catching up with a girlfriend, actually, a piper from my band, the other night, and she picked up her copy and it had all tabs sitting through it, and I thought, that's so great that she's found it useful enough that she wants to go back and revisit it, which is fantastic. So it definitely was by design. We in structuring the book, it was very intentional to try and make it a bit sort of, we wanted to introduce the reader, give them a nice flow, almost sort of entice them Hansel and Gretel style into getting the hard facts of what they'd need to do to sort of get on the right path. And then the last chapters are sort of a bit of a, what would you say, like a philosophical approach, I suppose, to sort of some bigger issues in the piping world. But it was definitely designed to be something people could refer back to. Yeah.
It's thought-provoking. That's what I was going to say. At the end of it, you kind of get, I've got some topics of the week there I could delve into.
Yeah.
But honestly, the way the book starts out, you find out a lot about Andrew, and you find out a lot about the guy himself behind.
Absolutely.
We all find out who Andrew is, and his process. But then he tells you how you can also use the same process, and it's absolutely fascinating. So, but the whole point and the partnership between yourself and Andrew was that you were to kind of keep Andrew on the rails, because I mean this in the best way. If Andrew's listening to this right now, he's going to hate me. But sometimes Andrew can go down a road You can go, oh, what's that? And then
He,
he can skew off, Did you find you had to
yeah,
do
definitely. He can be very impulsive, which is actually it was actually a really good partnership with us because I think I'm the exact opposite. I get way too fixed on a route and wanting things to be perfect, and his mantra is done is better than perfect, and mine is very much sort of I want things to be perfect if they've got my name on it. So there's definitely a bit of tension, but I think in the end that is what led to such a great result, is that both of our approaches definitely complemented one another. But it's actually a good point that you made, where it's kind of, you get to know Andrew a bit in this book, because I think a lot of the time people sort of think of him as, he's just that bloke that runs the Piper's Dojo, but
Exactly.
he's also an incredibly decorated piper, professional level piper, and musician who's released music and that sort of thing as well. And I think a lot of those things, as time goes on, people sort of see, what is it? You're as good as your best gig, or whatever it is, your last gig. So Piper's Dojo is what he's famous for. But yeah, he's obviously proven himself at the highest levels. And so, yeah, it's good to kind of get that that understanding of who he is, so that you know the authority of the teacher that you've got speaking through the book to you. So
for sure. And Camille, if you don't mind me saying, speaking about the authority, people who have spoke highly of this book, like, we've just had a brief look at the website here for folks listening to the pod, and we had comments here from Rab Matheson, Jack Taylor, Roddy McLeod, Jack Lee. Some of these guys at the top of the piping game are really singing the praises of this book. It's bound to be flattering, that. Do you know what I mean?
I couldn't believe it. And when they sent back some of the comments, it was just so humbling to see, that they obviously, that it resonated. And the thing that I really appreciated was that when they kind of had comments about the fact that it would help people and that it was a great way to approach teaching, because I think that's the biggest thing, is that we didn't want to make it something that was just kind of like an entertaining book, or a textbook that kind of gives you an outline or anything like that. It's definitely not intended to be that way. It's meant to be something that people can enjoy reading, and where it hopefully gets the message across, because it's, entertaining to read, but it has a great message too. So,
oh, for sure. So I know this sounds like a massive big sales pitch, but I really wanted to talk to you about the book. And I have to say, this is the sales pitch. If you do have a little promo code, there's that little button there. There you go. Type in Big Rab and you'll get money off. There you go. $6 off. That's the plug. There you go. All right. So
I love those affiliate links.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you guys won the Big Rab Show Awards, and honestly, there was some stiff competition in there. We had some real good music collections and stuff. But I hope you don't mind me singing your praises here on the pod this week, because it's deservedly so. The book is incredible, and one of which that I do still refer to. Yeah.
Thank you, Rab. My tall poppy syndrome flares up something shocking when something like that happens. But it was incredibly tough to have been, because, as you said, there was some incredibly esteemed company that was in that category. So, and all fantastic, fantastic musicians and fantastic books. So it's just,
there you are.
Very, very cool to get that news. So.
Indeed. So I need to ask then, what does the future hold for yourself and the Brisbane Pipe Band? What do you guys have in store for the future?
Yeah, I suppose the biggest thing for us at the moment is that we're gearing up to playing competition at the Australian Nationals next year. So we're still teaching, still doing a lot of our regular stuff, getting gigs and things like that. We've got a couple of big events coming out next year. We're putting on a burn supper and that sort of thing. But the big thing for us is traveling to Sydney, which is not my favorite place in the world to go, but it's definitely going to be worth it to have that many pipers and drummers all together. And playing the last Australian Nationals was held in Brisbane, which we were incredibly lucky to sort of be able to play when it was held in our city. Absolutely. And I think we had, in the end, it was about 1,400 odd pipers and drummers who all played together, and the mass bands at the end of the day was like, incredible. Brilliant. Just that wall of sound kind of hitting you, knowing that you were contributing as part of that was just an incredible experience. So so no, it should be a lot of fun. Got it. Getting everyone excited and motivated towards that as a goal, plus all of our competition season next year. So onwards and upwards.
Oh, I can't wait for 2022. It's going to be so much fun. With that, can I also ask then, obviously, the biggest question that's been coming to us from listeners of the pod is, this book was brilliant. Will there be another one? Is there any plans in the works for another?
We've definitely talked about it. Yeah, we actually. It's funny you mentioned before that Andrew can be so quick to jump onto a new idea, even mid-sentence. Sort of something else will hit him, and he jumps onto something else, and they're all brilliant. But trying to chase them all down and figure out the best ones to follow is difficult. But we're in the throes of writing some of the really heavy chapters, and I was sort of in the middle of my part of it. And he got in touch with me one day and said, "Hey, what do you think about this idea for the next book?" And I was like, "The next book? Can we get through this one first, please?
Oh,
So,
there you
but it
go.
was a good idea, so I don't know if we'll pursue that. But yeah, we definitely talked about it, and I hope we will at some point soon. I think finding the time is going to be interesting. We were in a very fortunate position, both of us last year, not having too much on our plates with the pandemic. So in lieu of touch wood, another global pandemic hitting us, yeah, it might be a little bit more slow going, but yeah, definitely keen to write another one and hopefully produce it in the next couple of years. So we'll see.
Fantastic. Keep us posted on that. We'd love to hear about that for sure. Now, as you're aware, Camille, I know you listen to the pod, and I have to say, every guest that comes on gets asked these questions, no matter who they are. Doesn't matter. So can I ask them, first of all, has there been any one standout moment for yourself personally in all your career on piping as your standout moment is going, wow?
Yeah, I mean, the Aussie Nationals that I just mentioned was pretty special. So playing with that many people at once was incredible. And actually called back to, it was about 6 months before I had that moment in the pub where I sort of ran into the pipe band. I actually sing. I used to sing in a choir. And so we played a Celtic concert where the Queensland Police Pipers were playing, and we played a rendition of The Gale. And I'm not a religious person, but that was about as close as I've come to a spiritual experience. It was incredible. So singing as part of that when the Pipers were playing was incredible. But no, I'd have to say some of the big overseas events I've done have been incredibly memorable. So playing in Night Magic in Lorient was incredible. So
wow, you did that?
yeah, in the Inter-Celtic Festival, I only got to do it for about 1 or 2 nights because I caught the worst flu I've ever had in my life on that trip. I was knocked out for about eight days of the 10-day festival, unfortunately. But also playing the closing ceremonies at the Las Vegas Highland Games was incredible too. So I played as a solo piper in some of the mass band stuff there, which was an incredible experience. So yeah, I'll never forget that.
I remember seeing the video, and honestly, even me as a drummer, I got the goosebumps. Think, wow, that's amazing. So
it was so much fun.
I'm going to have to get to these games sometimes over in Vegas. I've been listening to the guys on the Chantaran pod talking about it all the time. It just sounds like the best crack. Was it as good as they make it out to be? Yeah.
Yeah, Vegas was so much fun. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing that struck me about the Vegas games too was so the games here are quite similar, I think, to what a lot of people have said the games in the UK are like. I've actually never experienced it myself, unfortunately. Someday, hopefully. But the games in the US, they just do it so well in terms of a festival. So the Vegas ones are incredible, where they had VIP tents with just bottomless drinks and so much spectacle in terms of rock bands playing and people just getting so into it, different people dressed up in pirate costumes and Ren Fair costumes and all that sort of stuff wandering around markets.
That bit's a bit strange.
So much mixture of different things. It was just such a spectacle, like everything in Vegas is, I guess. But yeah, it was incredibly fun. So yeah,
there's a little bit of everything sprinkled in there, but for us it's just a piping contest and that's it.
Yeah, same for us too. Yeah, you might have the odd food truck or whatever, but yeah, this was like
that's
a full-on, full-on thing.
If it's not piping or a burger and a chip, that's it. There's nothing else. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
indeed. But hey, there you go. I might have to jump in the plane someday and get over there. There you go. So with that in mind, we're talking about food there and food trucks. Of course, brings me on to the core question of every podcast. Camille, what is your favorite
I knew this one was coming.
Yeah.
I'd had to prep myself for this one today, right? I'd have to say, well, my go-to always on an antipasto platter is what do they call it? Like the aged blue cheese, creamy blue. Yeah.
Ooh. That's not the really smelly, stinky one, that blue cheese stuff?
Certainly is. Yeah.
Sometimes I can take
Sucker for a mature cheese. What can I say?
There you go. Not bad at all. Well, Camille, honestly, thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. And we've been kind of following developments down under in Australia, but the new president and everything, Ainsley. Yeah. Just before we let you go, I just wanted to let you be controversial, I suppose, a parting shot, if you will. But how have things been going since the installation of the new president?
I have to say, so I don't have too much to do with the National Association. I sort of help out with comms and website stuff with the Queensland Association, which is a branch of the Nationals. I have to say, from my perspective, so as president and pipe sergeant of a band in Queensland and sort of working with the Queensland Association has been fantastic. So we've had much better communication. The website's all been redeveloped. We're hearing a lot more about different developments and things like that as a player, sort of, and as someone who's not a secretary receiving emails, the communication's been, tenfold better. And it seems like there's lots to look forward to. There was the announcement that you mentioned on the show last week, but about the Australia-New Zealand sort of joint nationals every 3 years and things like that, which would be incredible. So Yeah, a couple of really good
South
initiatives
Pacific,
coming out of national.
that whole South Pacific Championship, man, it just sounds so exciting. But, bringing in from all around that area, that's bound to be something really to look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it seems to have been lots of positives so far, which has been fantastic.
There you are. So I wanted you to be controversial, but hey, there we go.
I know. Sorry. I'll launch a nuke next time.
I'll hold you to that. Brilliant. Great stuff. Well, I know this all sounds like a massive shameless plug and everything, but it's a great opportunity to chat with yourself, Camille. But yes, if you haven't checked out Finding Bagpipe Freedom, go grab yourself a copy. And even by listening to the show, you get to save money by using our promo code. There you go. So, Camille, thank you so much for joining us on the pod. Please give my best to everyone in the band. And I wish you the best for next season. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rab. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.
Lovely to chat.